Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Erik Huberman, CEO and founder of Hawke Media. Hawke Media is the fastest growing marketing consultancy agency in the United States. Erik, it's so exciting to have you on the show, not only because of your experience growing companies, scaling them, but also seeing how companies really gain this brand recognition, attention, and really connect with their customers, which is, I think, as founders, it's what we all try to do, but don't always do it successfully. So I'm interested to hear from your experience how that's done. But before we get into all that, what were you doing before you started Hawke Media?
Built and sold 2 e-commerce companies. So jumped into those after I got into real estate 1 week before Lehman Brothers crashed in 2008. Was a commercial real estate agent out of college. So time sounds a little too familiar right now. And so made $350 that year, kind of scrambled, started working online on my own digital businesses, was able to build 2 companies, sell them, and then started advising for others on how, and ended up building Hawke Media.
It's incredible to think about, first of all, the time you're in that moment of time. And I just can't even imagine having to deal with the weight of having that, going into real estate and then starting 2 businesses. What was the catalyst for what kind of led you into the businesses that you ended up running? What did you see in the market at that time? And how did it lead to, or if there's any correlation, how did it lead to Hawke Media and where you are now?
Yeah, it was just, it was a function of like the tools that were out there and why hadn't anyone done this. So like the first company was a t-shirt subscription site called Swag of the Month. And I just was like, I hate shopping. So do most guys. E-commerce is a thing, but I don't want to go find t-shirts online. Like, can't someone just send me something that fits like what I like to wear and just ask me like, what's your style? Great. We'll send you something.
Yeah.
Like that seems so much nicer for most guys that just don't give a shit about the details. And so that's where we launched. It was easy to do a style quiz, and we had PayPal as a subscription partner until we built out some other stuff, but it was super early, but yeah, it turns out subscription e-commerce became a thing pretty quick. Just saying like, why doesn't this exist? I wish it did. Well, I'll just build it.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of founders have that kind of idea or have that inspiration into a product, but not all of them get off the ground. And it's for many different reasons, whether maybe they're not able to find product market fit, or maybe that they weren't allowed or not able to get as many customers onboarded in a certain amount of time to continue the business. What have you seen for companies that are successful who come from, whether it's a product-led motion or coming from an idea and then going out and finding users and then building backwards? What makes the ones that are successful and what makes those who fail? What have you seen for the common reasons?
I think most companies fail generally because someone gives up. Like, just to be blunt, like there's almost always an option. I just watched this. The past year has been a really good highlight of like what companies learn how to navigate and what companies just fail. And so and sorry if there's some noise. I've got my 6-month-old over here, so there might be a little bit of pterodactyl cries going out. But yeah, so I watched like companies that were underwater on the finance side, rework their debt, rework their investments and make it work. And other people, they just go, oh, we're out of business. We can't make this work. Like, that's been the biggest learning I've had the past year is like, oh yeah, businesses don't just fail. Like, it's not just like one day there's a stamp that says failed and it's gone. Generally, it's the founder trying everything they can or just giving up.
Yeah.
And that's been the difference. And so that's why being passionate about what you do is a must, because it is hard sometimes. And if you're not into it, fully into it, you're going to take the easy way out. You're going to just toss in, throw in the towel because it's not always roses and sunshine building a business.
Yeah. And thinking about in terms of gaining traction from a customer standpoint, or even just like when you want to turn on the marketing engine, and it doesn't always happen initially. You get to the customers to adopt your product, you work through the kinks of it, and you build out your features. Then you have some kind of goal that you want to hit in terms of whether it's attracting clients or building a brand. What are some strategies for companies looking to actually turn on a marketing engine and get people interested in the product and build a brand? What kind of leads to that point? And what are some ways that as founders, we can identify which strategy we should deploy, whether it's social media marketing, LinkedIn, purchase ads, what have you?
Yeah, it's basically, we wrote a book called The Hawke Method, which usually I have sitting right here, but I don't have it right now. But the idea is we wrote the 3 principles of marketing that helped us grow over 3,000 brands, which honestly now is like 4,500. And it was, what we found is like the general thesis is there's 3 principles of marketing: awareness, nurturing, and trust. Think of it as three parts of a tripod. Awareness is how to drive new awareness to your product or service, new potential customers to make them aware you exist. Nurturing is what do you do from the time that you create that awareness to the time they actually buy, and then post-purchase to bring them back and create that lifetime value. And then trust, also known as brand, how do people trust they're going to get what they actually believe they're going to get when they buy from you? Initially, a lot of third-party validation helps that, PR and influencers, endorsement deals. And eventually, you're consistent, you're well-known, and that's when people can just trust your brand. And so when you're talking about how do you build out when you're launching a new product, it's always about figuring out like how you're going to introduce new people to it.
Yeah.
How are you going to then nurture that? Because there's something called a sales cycle. There's like the biggest thing people miss in marketing. Like from the first time people see your product or service to the time they buy, usually takes a while, like weeks of months. And most people, like when I say that, it's like, no shit. But then when you look at your marketing spend, everybody loves to say, well, I spent $1,000 today. How much did I make? Like that's how this works.
Yeah.
And so nurturing, doing things like email marketing and SMS and creating great content and doing all these other things to engage that audience are critical to get them through that funnel. And then I keep them in that funnel once they buy something, having your merchandising set up so that they have other things they can buy, or it's repeat purchases, super important to make money. And again, setting up that trust factor too. All these things working in conjunction have to happen because you're competing against other people that are doing it really well. And if you want to win, like capitalism is a competitive game. It's a transfer of wealth, not an creation. So you've got to be able to win and beat the other people out there that people are spending money with.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are ways that you can see founders, whether it's like going in a certain direction to build their brand, because even the branding piece is so difficult. Who am I? How would people interact with my product? What our product stands for? A lot of companies try to go say we're better than our competitor. Others try to build a standalone, others build the same products. Is that all customer discovery? Is that seeing what's in the market? How can founders be better educated on what their brand needs to be? And in an environment where attention is a valuable commodity.
Yeah, totally. And a good question. I would say when it comes to developing your brand, think about what your brand. So take a step back. Purchase is something through aspiration. That's how people buy things.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a grandiose way. What I mean is like, you buy toilet paper because you're out of toilet paper. And we all know the reason why you buy toilet paper. But that's an aspiration. You're aspiring to not be someone that doesn't have any toilet paper. Like that's what I mean by aspiration.
Right. So
whatever your product or service is, what are people aspiring to achieve when they purchase your product? Understand that. And that's what your brand should stand for. So if you're creating a running shoe company, why do I buy running shoes? I want to be healthier. Maybe I want to be happier, healthier, whatever it is. I want to look better, figure out what those things are, and then create a brand around that's who we are. We're the good looking, happy, healthy company. And you can be us too if you buy our shoes. Yeah. That's the way of thinking about a brand is what is that aspiration? How can I be like you? And you can create.
I love the aspirational piece. That's something that I haven't heard yet from a lot of, whether it's founders or people who run kind of agencies around marketing and media.
Well, it's super important not to confuse your brand and your target because what people are aspiring to be is very different from who that aspiration is compelling to. So when I say running shoe company, you want to be happy, healthy, good looking, whatever, you create that as a brand. That doesn't mean that happy, healthy, good looking people are your customer.
Right.
It actually could be the opposite. It could be unhappy, unhealthy, ugly people are your customer. Find those people because they're the ones that want to be that. And that's why they're going to buy the run shoes. If I'm already happy, healthy, and good looking, well, then your running shoes your brand isn't going to be compelling to me. I'm already there. Why do I need to buy your shoes? I already achieved that.
Right.
So that's
the target. Yeah. The target, I can see kind of the obvious thing, but it's this difference between the two kind of functions, like the aspiration and the target. Yeah. There's one thing that was really interesting to me about Hawke Media, and you kind of have this a la carte method. I think the way the company is structured is kind of a monthly service, and you continue to either utilize certain features and not. How does that work in a marketing function in relation to what you said earlier, where, what's done in a marketing campaign isn't completed in a month and you don't see the results until maybe somewhere down the line? Is it a lot of experimenting? What's the grand plan for a company to come into Hawke Media, want to use the services, but, may not need everything or toggling through what they need? And then how do I measure my success?
Great question. So basically like our whole methodology, so actually I keep doing this, but it's step back. We took the past 8 years to build something called Hawke AI, which is basically we take 8,000 companies' marketing data in real time that's growing every day. And we digest it and we can now benchmark one company compared to their industry in real time across every media metric, marketing metric, and revenue metric. So we can actually see where you're making your money, where you should be, and et cetera, et cetera. So we run through that when we talk to a new company. It's all free. We run through that. We do an audit on their company and we go, oh, here are the 4 things you're underperforming on. We can take those over if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like if you're doing really well on Facebook ads, we're not going to take them because like, then we're just going to take them over. We're not going to do a good job because you're already doing a good job. You're going to be pissed off you switched and you're going to fire us. So instead, we're going to focus on things you're happy that we can actually do well with. And we're month to month and out at carts. So it's like, we're going to pick exactly the things we can help with. We're going to jump on those. And then we're going to ebb and flow as the needs change and be flexible with our clients. And that's really the nature of the business. Our mission is accessibility to great marketing. It's how can we be the best at what we do, but really easy to work with.
Yeah. You mentioned the AI piece, and it's one of many ways that a lot of industries are adapting and evolving into utilizing technology to better have strategies, work more efficiently. And what are some ways in terms of marketing as a collective industry in terms of what's being more effective? And I don't know if it's based on the brand. I don't know if it's based on where the attention is or what your user is. If I have a certain user demographic, maybe I'm on TikTok, maybe I'm on Instagram, maybe I'm on these other channels. What have you seen in terms of the evolution of marketing, being that people are now seemingly way more aware of what they're buying, where they're digesting information, and what the overall outcome is when they have a relationship with a company?
Yeah. Great questions, by the way. Got to hand it to you. I do a lot of podcasts. This is fun.
I appreciate it.
On this one, I would say is you're right. The consumer is a lot brighter these days. And like, we've all been burned by a stupid TikTok ad that was like some product out of China. Like I've seen so many memes that it's like, I bought one. I bought the like floating island golf set where it was like an island to put in your pool. And I was like, that's dope. And I bought it and it's like a piece of like turf and there's like just a float. And I'm like, what the fuck is it? We've all been there. And so what that means is you have to do everything right now. Like what was interesting is like when I started Hawke almost 10 years ago, you could sneeze and run Facebook ads and make a bunch of money. Like I still have like these case studies from Facebook where like we were getting campaigns that were running 80x returns and 100x. It was like fucking crazy. It was money. Now you can still do that. You can still make crazy money, but you got to do everything right. You have to do really well. You have to run the platforms right. You have to have everything else. When I talk about like these 3 pillars of marketing, you have to do it all to even be successful. If you don't, it's really hard to just stumble into success. So when I hear about people saying like, oh, e-commerce is too hard these days, or e-commerce, that ship has sailed. E-commerce isn't working. It's like, well, it's not working for idiots. It's not working for people who are not savvy at this. But honestly, like we still have 500 companies paying us without any contracts that are all doing really well online. That's just us. So like, the e-commerce movement or the whole side of e-commerce is nothing's gone away. It's just, you have to be good. And all the people that weren't very good, that just were riding the wave, are not doing very well. But there's a lot of companies watching that. Yeah.
It seems like even more so today, brand loyalty is in kind of a surprising way is becoming extremely more valuable. And you are what you wear, you are what you consume. And it's for that experience. Exactly. If we have a great experience with something, the word of mouth, that contagiousness really begins to spread. And you see a lot of companies who do the things right becoming highly, highly successful, even with the most minimum products, the most minimum value that they bring to customers. And it's around also another thing is like community and fostering community and building kind of a conversation around what your brand or your product is. And how have you been able to, or how have you deployed that, if you have, for communities or for companies that you work with, in fostering that part of the ecosystem, which is not just like, okay, we have the attention, now we're in the nurturing piece. How do we create a conversation around the products? What are some ways that you've done so successfully for companies?
Yeah, honestly, it's funny you say that because it really comes down to, if it's a great product or service, it's easy. If it's not, it's impossible. So you don't really have to force it. Like I think a lot of people assume that like the reason people are really rabid and having conversation around a product is because the company did something really brilliant. Honestly, no one's that smart. It's usually because it's just a great product and they timed it right. Like this is happening right now. I don't want to blow them up too much, but I have a company that is literally the answer to the problem with SVB. I'm an advisor to it. Where they're a client of ours. Actually, no, I will plug them. They won't hate me for that. They'll love it. So treasure.tech. They're treasury management. So basically, instead of having your cash in a savings account, they go and manage it and put into conservative investments. They get higher returns in a savings account, but they're also not holding your cash. So there's no run at the bank for them. So it's like the answer for security around your cash. If you have cash sitting, which for venture companies, this is the problem, is if you raise $10 million, that money goes and sits in a bank account while you burn through it. And they're like, well, hey, you can give it to us. It'll earn 8%, which will extend your burn quite a bit. And or whatever their percentages they can earn. They're not promising returns, but they're getting good returns. We can earn you money on it. And by the way, there's no run at our bank. We're just holding it on your behalf. So it'll come right back when you need it. And so this is what I mean by like, guess what happened yesterday or Monday?
Yeah.
It's skyrocketed because they've been spending, this is after several years of building this business and getting the name out there. And then all of a sudden, everyone they had been talking to was like, oh shit, I get it now.
Yeah.
Here. Flooded. And so what are people going to say? Look at that overnight success. But that founder, Sam, raised money in 2022 when it was impossible. Like, almost went out of business. Like, I was scared about making payroll, all the shit you go through. And then finally that fucking thing hit and he took advantage of it. And he was ready. And that's generally what happens. Like this building community, getting the name out there. It's like more about, it's like the rinse and repeat scalable piece of this is so much more important. And then when that time hits, being ready for it. What is it? Luck is opportunity meeting preparation.
Yep.
You prepare. The opportunity pops up and you go for it.
Yeah. And you execute. And that's a huge component to it, right?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, thankfully, they know all this stuff, but like now they have to deliver. They have to manage that money well. They blah, 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 but now they have all the opportunity to make a huge company.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, the timing piece that you mentioned. And I was having a conversation around overnight successes and what that really meant, but there was a lot of previous work that happened before it. It's amazing to hear that company's having success. Thinking about Hawke Media, obviously you work with thousands of companies, help thousands of brands. What's next? What's next on the horizon? And what keeps you up at night? What are some of the biggest challenges that you see the company facing today?
Yeah. So the first part, we always say world marketing domination. Like we are expanding. We haven't announced it yet, but we closed an acquisition. We're working on another one. We're buying up agencies. Our venture fund's actually thankfully doing really well, even all through this. We have some incredible investments we made like Postscript and Klaviyo and Tapcart and Faring, all these MarTech and e-com tech companies that are awesome and skyrocketing. And so that's going really well. We've got our financing arm. We've got Hawke AI, which is new, and we're really excited on what that can turn into. So these are all pieces that are a part of a bigger pie. Of the idea is, again, to really build out this promise of accessibility to great marketing, be the best at what we do, but easy to work with. We're now leveraging this platform we've built on how can we continue to be better and better and better than anyone else you could call. Because part of my goal is like, it should, like, there's no pit, like people ask who our competitors are and it's anyone that would do marketing instead of us, obviously. Yeah. But I want it to be like, you're going to work with someone else. Like I want it to almost be like, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
We're cost effective and we're the best at what we do. There's no one else that can compete with us across the board. Like it's kind of ridiculous. And that's really what I continue to try to build. And I'd say 99% there, honestly. There's still some other great agents. And so, I just want it to be more and more like, now I look at like, what are the top agencies out there doing? Like more of our, when I say competitive, funny enough, the top agencies out there are not the people we really compete with. I'm not in pitches with the other best agencies. Usually it's me or some bullshit agency that's overpromising. That's where we struggle. But the other good agencies now, I'm like, those guys suck. If someone's going to make a decision to work with them, I can't really help them. But let's look at the really good ones. What are they doing that we're not, and vice versa, so we can like accelerate and be better and better and better. So now we're almost competing with ourselves in that sense.
Sure.
Like this is where now, how do we now improve ourselves 20%? What are the things we're missing that we think we can do better? And how do we have this constant pursuit of perfection, though it's never achievable, given the tools to come out? So the good example there is we launched Hawke AI waiting for something like ChatGPT to come up. And now it's here. And we're like, perfect. Now we have all the data to teach a natural language processing AI tool how marketing works. So we can actually have an automated marketing strategist. Like we can have a marketing assistant would be an understatement of it, but that an AI CMO is what we're trying to create. Now we actually can just about get there given our data and the tools that have been created. So those are things that we're looking at. How do we continue to stay on top of that to continue to deliver on our promise of being the best?
Yeah. And the second question there was, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face today? And good.
Thank you for reminder. Yeah. It's so when you've spent a year and a half of the media and everybody's saying, cut, slow down, the demand for marketing is lower. And so I've not navigated a market like that. And it took me a few months to really understand what that looked like and what to do in these situations. Cause I ran a business that grew massively every year for 8 years. And all of a sudden it's like, stop, everyone stop. Not me, but everyone else, you gotta stop. And it's like, what do you mean stop? Why would you stop? We're all making. And it's amazing what fear does to people. Like I had to talk to someone on Monday that was like, hey, we need to hold off on marketing because we have to see how this bake stuff shakes out. The company has nothing to do with baking. It's a fashion company.
Sure.
They're like, who do you bank with? They're like, JP Morgan. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. We've had a few conversations in-house about different people. It's like those who deposited and those who haven't, but are in an adjacent industry are one branch of people, and then everybody else is just kind of watching and seeing it all unfold from the sideline. Right.
I mean, even then Credit Suisse had their thing, like it was First Republic Monday, then it was Credit Suisse today, and and then everything's fine. Like it's going to be volatile for a couple of weeks, and everyone's going to fucking not forget, because it was the second largest bank failure in history. No one's going to forget this, but it's like, I don't think it's going to be like, it's a signal that banks are going to have some issues. I think bank stocks being down is actually really reasonable. It's like, they're getting squeezed on rate. Like, we increased rates like crazy. It was obvious that banks and real estate, and I have a huge real estate portfolio, like both are going to get hit in this. It's obvious. Who's directly affected by the increase in rates? Like it's really simple.
Yeah. Right.
But once it shakes out, it'll be fine. But like it showed there is a little bit of weakness there, but there didn't necessitate a run at the bank. Like SVB wasn't going anywhere. So anyways, these conversations have been the challenge, because when people aren't bullish on the future, they're not going to invest heavy into it.
Yeah.
And so it's just been slower. That being said, when I say challenge, the business is more profitable than it's ever been, because we got also very frugal. It's running well. We're reinvesting into Hawke AI heavily. That's growing like crazy. So it's just like our growth has slowed, but everything else is fine. And so it's more of as a founder, it's a mental mountain to get over.
Yeah.
But I like growth. I want to grow my shit. That's what's fun. It's like, all right. We're going to go efficient. We're going to figure out what we're going to do, period. But we better get back to fucking growth soon. And that I'd say is the challenge, honestly.
Yeah. I love that. And I know we're strapped for a little bit of a tighter episode here, so I want to get a couple of quick answer questions from you, quick responses from you. One, what's particularly hard about your job?
And I hate to be dismissive, but I think it's important to understand is like, for everyone else at a company, if they screw up or the company goes under, it means they have to go find another job.
Yeah.
Which sucks. Being unemployed is scary. Like, I don't want to dismiss that, but like, that's what happens. To the most senior, to a CEO of a company that's not the founder or the owner, like, what happens if you screw up? You have to go get another job somehow.
Right.
The founder, they're world pet.
Yeah.
So like everything. And it's hard to explain what that means, but it's like your entire soul is in your company that's what it takes to build one of these.
Yeah.
And failure of it is so much more meaningful that they say it's lonely at the top, but even I kind of dismiss that till it gets harder. And then you're like, wow, it's interesting. Like that is the hard part, is knowing that like this matters to all my employees. Like my team's awesome. I love my team. But at the end of the day, if I had to stop paying everybody and we have to just keep working for a year, because I've had to do that myself.
Yeah.
Very few are sticking around. Maybe so. Actually, we're thinking about it. Maybe some would. Maybe some could. So what couldn't from a financial perspective. But that's stuff that like the owner has to do. And so the weight on the shoulders thing. If you ask what the hardest part on, it's the weight, but it's almost knowing like it's on you.
Yeah.
There is you don't get to go home at night. If there's a problem, you're fixing it. If this needs a push, like I've worked harder the past year to keep things going than I ever have, because that's what it takes.
Right.
But, there's no one else. Like and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people working hard at Hawke Media, but it's like, they're going to push it as much as they can, and then it stops.
Right.
For me, it's like, I don't get to check out. I have to just keep working to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that generally is fun. It comes with a lot of benefits. It's the world's smallest violin here. I love being a business owner, but at times it's like, Jesus Christ, like I want to take a nap, but I got to call, got to make.
Yeah, exactly. And last question here is, whether it was early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most?
No, funny enough, number one I'd say is easily my dad. He's was an entrepreneur too. And literally like 8 years old, wanted to play electric guitar, said I want to be a rock star. He's like, well, you better get a fucking job. And like that, he definitely pushed me to be an entrepreneur, and indirectly like educated me on money and numbers, and like always was in the back of my head. And I just naturally gravitated towards that because of that. And was always a great sounding board. So that's one, and that's an easy answer. Book, I always mention this book because it's not as well known in the entrepreneurial world. It's a music book. My first company I started after real estate, I didn't mention, was a music company. And I wanted to learn about the industry. And this book had just come out from a Rolling Stone writer named Steve Knopper. It's called Appetite for Self-Destruction. And it's about the music industry's perpetual actions that continue to screw themselves over. Like when the CD came out, everyone being like, that's never going to work, and not wanting to adopt it. When digital music came out and all the record labels just tried to sue and stop it. And now Apple owns the biggest digital music platform on Spotify. Like, why doesn't Universal Music own Apple or Spotify? Like, it's crazy. And it was such a great book as a young entrepreneur, because it's in the back of my mind with my own business all the time. Like, what am I doing that I'm ignoring innovation?
Sure.
End up letting innovation disrupt me, which is where my venture fund came from. It's where Hawke AI came from. are both like tools
Yeah.
and AI that I think disrupt what we do. But why don't we own both of them?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that was so impactful. So Appetite for Self-Destruction. Love that book.
Amazing. Erik, last little bit is where can we find you? Where can we find Hawke Media? Give us your plugs, your websites, your LinkedIn's, your Twitters. Let's hear it.
Yeah, super simple for me. It's @/Erik Huberman on any of those, any social media channel. I'm easy to find. And then HawkeMedia.com. You can also buy the book, The Hawke Method, Hawke AI, all those things, but it's really easy to find. We try to be visible.
Amazing. Erik, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you and learning about your experience, what you're working on at Hawke Media, and overall, it's such a pleasure having you on the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you for being on Buying Company Lens.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.